Hello and welcome to all our viewers in Nigeria and around the world to News Cycle on Global TV Live in the nation's capital, Abuja. I am Jumai Manson. Now the news in full. In a new move to straighten service delivery, President Bola Tinubu has approved the deployment of National Agency for Engineering Infrastructure, NASINI. The National Identity Management Commission, NIMC, amongst other 10 government institutions, to the Office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, SGF. The other agencies also moved under the SGF supervision include the Nigerian Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative, the Infrastructure Concession Regulatory Commission, ICRC, the Fiscal Responsibilities Commission, FRC, National Quality Control, NQC, the National Hydroelectric Power Producing Areas Development Commission, Hydropedric, and the Bureau of Public Service Reforms, BPSR. Before their deployment to the office of the SGF National Agency for Science and Engineering Infrastructure, NASINI was placed under the presidency, while the National Identity Management Commission, NIMC, was domiciled under the Ministry of Communications and Digital Economy. President Bola Tinubu has asked the Senate to screen and confirm 11 justices recommended for the Supreme Court bench. Tinubu's request was contained in a letter read by the Senate President Godswill Akpabio during the plenary on Wednesday. The National Judicial Council recommended 11 nominees to Tinubu for the appointment of the Supreme Court justice pending their confirmation by the Senate. The NGC made the recommendation after receiving a list of 22 nominees to fill the vacant positions at the Supreme Court following the death and resignations of some justices. The recommended justices are Justice Haruna Tessamani, Northeast, who chaired the Presidential Election Petition Court, Justice Moore Adomin, South-South, Justice Jumai Senki, North-Central, Justice Chidiberu Uwa, South-East, and Justice Chioma Uwosu Iheme, South-East, amongst others. President Bola Tinubu on Wednesday approved a 50% slash in price of interstate transport fare for Nigerians traveling during the Yuletide from Thursday, December 21st, 2023 to January 4th, 2024. This is as the President approved the free rides for commuters and all train services within the period. The Minister of Solid Minerals Development, Dele Alake, announced this to State House correspondents at the Aso Rock Villa on Wednesday. This special presidential intervention will commence tomorrow, Thursday, December 21st, and will end on January 4, 2024. The federal government, through the Ministry of Transportation, will be working with transporters, road transport unions, and the Nigerian Railway Corporation to seamlessly deliver on the special presidential initiative. Vice President Kashim Shettima has encouraged Nigerian youths to be more committed to building the nation. Shettima, represented by the Special Advisor to the President on Economic Matters, Office of the Vice President, Dr. Tokwe Faswa, was addressing the graduates of the Leadership Enhancement and Development Program, LEAD-P. He said they should see every opportunity, such as LEAD-P, as a call to serve more effectively, affirming that leadership challenges are changing and becoming more complex in present times. Shettima was optimistic that with rigorous training such as LEAD-P, there is hope that the public and civil services are prime co-workers, game changers, and change ambassadors. He further encouraged them to be more committed to building the nation. A total of 130 Nigerian Army generals on Tuesday bowed out of service. The breakdown includes 1 general, 1 lieutenant general, 67 major generals, and 44 brigadier generals at the regimental dinner night organized in honor of the newly retired and retiring Nigerian Army senior officers in Abuja. The Minister of Defense, Abubakar Badaru, hailed the support of the Nigerian Army towards the growth of democracy in the country. Badaru said this has made the Army a shining example in the West African region and beyond, urging other services in the region to take a cue from the Army. According to a statement on Wednesday by the Director, Army Public Relations, Brigadier General Oyema Uwachuku, the minister urged the Army to continue to remain loyal to the Constitution and support the development of democracy in the country. The minister noted that the occasion provided the Nigerian Army the opportunity to reflect on its service and profound dedication as demonstrated by the retired and retiring senior officers. Over now, the Nigerian Labour Congress expressed concerns over the lingering cash scarcity in the country 5 days to Christmas Day celebration. The Congress said in a statement by its national president, Joe Ajaero, that the situation had serious implications for citizens, insisting that urgent steps must be taken to address it. Bank customers have been groaning over their inability to access cash to meet daily needs, despite assurances from the Central Bank of Nigeria. The bank have continued to ration cash over the counter, while many ATMs are not dispensing cash. However, NLC in the statement warned the federal government and the Central Bank of Nigeria that a mass public protest was imminent if nothing was done to address the Naira shortage. Moving on, the head of Civil Service of the Federation, Dr. Folashade Yemi Asan, said the plan for full digitalization of all processes in ministries, departments and agencies by 2025 will lead to an automatic cut in the cost of governance. She also said that MDAs, having been given the opportunity to ensure adequate budgetary allocation in 2024 budget, will have no excuse to up their game on digitalization come 2024. This is to meet up with the deadline of 2025 as stipulated in the Federal Civil Service and Strategy and Implementation Plan 2021-2025. She said this at a one-day retreat on digitalization for the head of service and permanent secretaries, expressing dissatisfaction with Nigeria is lagging behind in terms of digitalization, as 90% of governments in the world have since gone digital and are presently deploying artificial intelligence solutions. Members of Rivers State House of Assembly have withdrawn the impeachment notice that was previously sent to Governor Siminalayi Fubara. The lawmakers officially began their session in the state capital of Port Harcourt on Wednesday. The lawmakers gathered solely to focus on the withdrawal of the impeachment notice against Fubara during their deliberations. This follows a meeting between President Bola Tinubu and the warring party in the Aso Villa in Abuja on Monday, where a truce was mediated. Meanwhile, River State elders and leaders, including the former governor, Chief Rufus Ada George, and former Deputy Governor Gabriel Toby, have rejected President Bola Tinubu's intervention in the political crisis rocking the state. The elders expressed worry that the intervention may have worsened the crisis in the state. They stated this in a communique read to newsmen after an emergency meeting on Tuesday in Port Harcourt, the state capital. In response to the presidential directive aimed at resolving the political crisis in the state, they said though they had previously called on President to intervene in the feud between the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, and the state governor, Siminalayi Fubara, they are at a loss as to whether his intervention has solved the problem or escalated it. The High Court in Ibadan, Oyo State, has sentenced one Olaniyan Gbenga Amos to a total of 75 years in prison for multiple counts of investment fraud. The conviction was pronounced by Justice Bayo Taiwo on Thursday, December 14, 2023, following the 35 count brought against him by the Ibadan Zonal Command of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC. The charges primarily revolved around obtaining money by false pretenses, convening Section 1, Subsection 1, Subsection A, and punishable under Section 1, Subsection 3 of the Advanced Fee Fraud and Other Fraud-Related Offences Act 2006. According to the EFCC statement via its X handle, the charges against Amos detailed instances of fraudulent scheme involving the misrepresentation of investment opportunities, resulting in substantial finance losses to unsuspecting victims. The defendant had pleaded not guilty to the charges, leading to a comprehensive trial that spiraled several sessions. The FCC counsel Sanisu Baladachi presented 6 witnesses and 8 exhibits during the trial, which concluded on January 24, 2023. The Lagos State government has issued a directive to all tankers and trailers to stop the indiscriminate parking along the Celeb bus stop inward Tinkan Port axis, instructing them to vacate immediately. The special advisor to the governor on transportation, Shola Giwa, disclosed this in a statement on Wednesday. According to the statement, the directive is a decisive move to address the ongoing congestion and alleviate the challenges faced by commuters along the axis. Former Minister of Power and Steel Olu Ogunloye may soon face charges of corruption and forgery as he spends his fifth consecutive day in detention after submitting himself to the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC. Ogunloye surrendered himself for interrogation on 13th December, a day after he was declared wanted by the Commission over corruption allegations regarding a failed multi-billion-dollar Mambila hydropower project. EFCC sources said charges have been drafted and will soon be filed in court and served on the former minister. The sources said he was declared wanted because he jumped the administrative bill granted to him. Over now to the Ogun Assembly on Tuesday swore in Olakunle Sobokonla of the All Progressive Congress representing Ikena constituency as a member of the 10th Assembly. This development followed the annulment of the election of Babajide Owodunni of the People's Democratic Party by the Court of Appeal. The Court of Appeal sitting in Lagos had last November nullified the election of Owodunni and declared Sobokonla, who was also a member of the 9th legislature, elected. Sobokonla took the oath of office and oath of allegiance administered by the Deputy Clerk Fumilayo Adeyemi during a plenary held at the Assembly complex. Okomosun Abeokuta shortly after his swearing in, Sobokonla promised to always remain a good representative of his constituents. You're watching the News Circle live from Nigeria's capital, Abuja, on Star Times Channel 276. Kindly follow us on all social media platforms using at Global TV NG and other handles now showing on your screen. When News Circle returns, Akpabio swears in Lalong as senator. The news continues shortly with details of this and more stories right after this break. Please stay with us. Don't go anywhere. You're welcome back, and if you're just tuning in, this is Global Television bringing you live broadcast of News Cycle. Thank you for staying with us. The President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, had administered the oath of office in the immediate past Minister of Labor and Employment, Simon Bako Lalong, for Plateau State. Lalong of the All Progressive Congress, APC, who took the oath of office on Wednesday at 11:56 a.m., is replacing Senator Lepolium Binkap Bali of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, who was sacked by the appeal court. The immediate past Minister of Labor and Employment, before the swearing in on Wednesday, was at the National Assembly on Tuesday to submit a certificate of return and relevant documents to the Clerk of the Senate. Speaking with journalists after the oath of office, the new senator, who assured his people that he would not disappoint them, as he had never done even as member Plateau State House of Assembly and later as Speaker of the House, said he decided to resign his appointment to come to the Senate as his first choice. The remains of former Chief of Army Staff, late Major General Mohammed Chris Ali, has been laid to rest at Military Cemetery, Abuja. Aziz was the 15th Chief of Army Staff from 1993 to 1994 under General Sani Abacha's regime and was military governor of Plateau State, Nigeria from August 1985 to 1986 during the military regime of General Ibrahim Babangida. Kike Lomo Okere tells us more.
It is a moment of sober reflection for the families and friends of late Major General Mohammed Chris Ali. The late general was accorded in full military honor as the hierarchy of the Nigerian military, led by the Chief of Defense Staff, General Christopher Musa, paid the last tribute. Speaking after the laying of wreath on his grave and presentation of national flag to the deceased next of kin, the Army Chief and Minister of Defense, was represented by the Chief of Defense Staff, consoled the family of the deceased. In their remarks, they described the late senior officer as an articulate, dedicated, loyal and highly professional officer in discharge of his duties. They eulogized the ex-army chief for his sterling qualities and immeasurable contribution to the Nigerian army while he was alive, saying the Nigerian army will reserve a seat for the late general as a sign of respect, with a writ on it for 3 subsequent events.
The truth is that the late General Chris Ali did not retire until his last breath. General MC Ali exhibited an unrivaled sense of duty and dedication to service. His love and passion for the Nigerian army was evident in all his doings.
As the Chief of Army Staff, Major General MC Ali retired, obviously achieved significant influence on the professionalism and reposition of the Nigerian Army to be a force to reckon with in both regional and global scenes.
Very humane officer and very patriotic Nigerian. All of us will miss him a lot, and we are going to, as a matter of fact, immortalize him in Kogi State, so that it will serve as a good example for other leaders that will come, live and serve and live.
A 21-gun salute was accorded to the deceased before his remains was buried at the National Military Cemetery, as scores of colleagues, including family members, bade tearful farewell.
Present! Reload! Present!
Being a profession with inherent risk, such a befitting burial is required to serve as a resting place for the hero. In attendance to condole with the family were the former Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Tukur Buratai, Lieutenant General Azubike Ihejirika, Kogi State Governor Yahaya Bello, the service chiefs, among others. Kike Lomo Okeri, Global Television News.
May the soul of the departed rest in perfect peace. Thank you, Kike Okeri, for that report. And over now to our foreign desk. Democratic Republic of Congo has declined a thorough rise in satellite equipment for European Union election observers over fears it would be used to manipulate the presidential poll later this month. In a surprise decision on November 29, the EU cancelled its electoral mission to the Central African nation, citing technical issues. DRC is due to hold presidential and parliamentary elections on December 20th. President Felix Tshisekedi, 60, is running for re-election. The government said last week it regretted the move to cancel the observation mission. At least 10 people were killed in floods after intense rainfall in southern India, local media reported Wednesday, weeks after a cyclone triggered intense flooding in the same area. Hundreds are stranded in the state of Tamil Nadu as water submerged roads, with the Air Force dropping 10 tons of emergency supplies to those stranded. Tamil Nadu's Chief Secretary Shivdas Meena said at least 10 people had died and 12,600 people were forced to flee to safer areas. The heavy rains come just 2 weeks after at least 8 people were killed by Cyclone Merchang, which hit Tamil Nadu and Haryana Pradesh states on December 6. While rains are expected in southern India in December, scientists have warned that storms are becoming more powerful as the world gets warmer with climate change. Over now to hospital doctors in England began their longest strike action yet on Wednesday in a move that health bosses fear would pile pressure on services at this busiest time of year. Junior doctors, those below consultant level, joined picket lines from 700 GMT to the same time on Saturday in a major escalation of their long-running pay dispute. 6 more days of industrial action are planned from January 3rd. The strike comes as one of the busiest times of the year for the state-funded National Health Service as it faces increased pressure from seasonal respiratory illnesses. The strike has drawn criticism from UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak and hospital leaders who have described the lengthy walkout as their worst fears realized. The British Medical Association announced a strike earlier this month after a breakdown in talks with the government. Survivors of China's deadliest earthquake in the years huddled in makeshift intense dispute, freezing temperatures on Wednesday, too scared to return home, made dangerous by the disaster. State broadcaster CCTV said at least 131 people were killed in northwestern Gansu province and neighboring Ginshi after a shallow tumor on Monday night damaged thousands of buildings. Almost 1,000 were injured across the two provinces, with 16 missing in Qinxi. The quake was China's deadliest since 2014, when more than 600 people were killed in southwestern Yunnan province. Families sheltering in makeshift tents built from wooden poles and trampolines outside the Mejin mosque near the Ekpit Center in Guanxin's Jiangsu County, with outdoor stoves and blankets salvaged from homes for their only source of warmth. EU member states and EU Parliament have agreed to significantly scatter asylum procedures in a major reform of the European asylum system. The painstaking negotiated compromise announced on Wednesday provided for numerous addition and tightening of existing rules to reduce irregular migration to the European Union. Describing the deal as a breakthrough, European Commission Vice President Margareta Chinard said on her X-handle that it's been a long road to get here, but we made it. Europe is finally delivering on migration, while the European People's Party, which includes consecutive political groups in the European Parliament, hailed the agreement as a historic deal. Left-leaning EU lawmakers were quick to criticize it under the new system. The distribution of people seeking protection among the bloc's 27 member states is recognized under a new set of rules, dubbed a solidarity mechanism. Over now to our business desk, the total domestic debt stock may have risen by 133.95% to 51.96 trillion naira as of the end of 2023. This is based on new revelations by the Director General of the Debt Management Office, Patience Oniha, while speaking to CNBC Africa on the sidelines of the discussion for the establishment of the African Debt Managers Initiative Network, spearheaded by the African Development Institute of the African Development Bank in Abuja. She disclosed that the federal government has raised 7.04 trillion naira as total new domestic borrowing in 2023. The Debt Management Office has said Nigeria's total public debt increased to 87.71 trillion naira at the end of the third quarter of 2023. The figure represents a marginal increase of 0.61% compared to 87.38 trillion naira recorded at the end of June 2023. The DMO, in a statement posted on its official X handle on Thursday, said domestic debt increased by 1.8 trillion naira, while external debt reduced from $43.16 billion as of June 30th, 2023 to $41.59 billion at the end of the third quarter. The statement read the total public debt as of September 30, 2023 was the amount represents the domestic and external debt of the federal government of Nigeria. The 36 governments and the Federal Capital Territory, 87.91 trillion naira, or USD $114.35 billion at 87.91 trillion naira. The total public debt stock represents a marginal increase of 0.61% when compared to June 30th, 2023 figure of 87.38 trillion. This trend is explained by the decrease in external debt from USD 43.16 billion as of June 30, 2023 to $41.59 billion as of September 30, 2023, and relatively moderate increase of 1.80 trillion naira in the domestic debt. Delta State Government Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, the UTM Offshore Limited, has signed an offshore shareholder agreement for the development of the first floating liquefied natural gas in Nigeria. This was contained in a statement issued by the Delta State Ministry of Information. According to the statement, the Secretary to the State Government, Kisley Emu, and Solicitor General and Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Justice, Omamuzo Erebe, signed for the Delta State Government, while the Group Chief Executive Officer, Malik Kere, and Group Managing Director, Julius Rome, signed for NNPCL and UTM Offshore, respectively. With the agreement, Delta State Government is to own an 8% share of the project, NNPC Limited 20%, and UTM Offshore 72%. The Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited says only appropriate pricing for gas in Nigeria would create the required market for the commodity in the country. NNPCL's Group Chief Executive Mele Carey disclosed this as an event in Abuja, where the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority issued a domestic gas aggregate license to the Gas Aggregation Company of Nigeria. Carey stated that they will deliver gas into the domestic market so that they can create that spark that Nigeria needs to bring the revolution that everybody is waiting for, due to the recognition of the fact that Nigeria is a gas country with associated oil and that have done very well about the gas. The Federal Capital Territory Internal Revenue Service has disclosed that it generated about 203 billion naira in 2023, representing a 63% increase from 124 billion naira it generated in 2024. Acting Chairman of FCT IRS Haruna Abdullahi disclosed at a news conference in Abuja on Wednesday, where he also revealed that the service hoped to generate about 250 billion naira in 2024. Abdullahi said the revenue tax collection of the FCT had grown from barely 46 billion naira in 2017 to 124 billion naira in 2022, representing an over 270% increase, adding that the service was optimistic that it could generate 250 billion naira with the support of staff of the FCTA, the National Assembly, and other key stakeholders. Let's turn to Anthony Momodu for sports details.
Welcome to Sports News Update. Talking boxing, Jarrell Miller has insisted that nobody cares about Anthony Joshua in the United States. Following an ugly confrontation in Saudi Arabia on Monday, Joshua was cheated by Miller when the British heavyweight was being interviewed ahead of Saturday's fight with Otto Wallin in Riyadh. Miller, who faces Daniel Dubious this weekend, was due to be AJ's first opponent in the United States before he failed 3 drug tests. He was replaced by Andy Ruiz Jr., who stunned the world by stopping Joshua in brutal fashion in the bout on June 1st, 2019, taking Joshua's heavyweight titles. There was a time when Mary Earps believed she wasn't good enough when the headache of being left out of England's squad was so overwhelming that it left her crying on the kitchen floor, a time when she felt as though she had lost her purpose and contemplated calling it quits. That was 3 years ago. Fast forward to last night and there was the same woman standing tall and proud, surrounded by the very best of British sport, with the famous BBC Sports Personality of the Year trophy in her grasp. The trophy could hardly be in a safer pair of hands for the next 12 months. Manchester City have been dealt a blow in their hopes of lifting the Club World Cup after Erling Haaland was ruled out of the tournament. Haaland was initially registered in City's 23-man squad for Tuesday's semi-final against Urawa Red Diamonds, but his foot problem hasn't sufficiently cleared up. City removed the Norwegian from their roster shortly before the last 4 encounters, with Kevin De Bruyne and Jeremy Doku also ruled out of a potential final with Fluminense. De Bruyne trained for a full session here in Jeddah on Monday night, but his comeback from a lengthy recovery from hamstring surgery was unlikely to come in Saudi Arabia. Doku, the flying winger who has lit up the Premier League in his debut season, is still nursing a hamstring problem. And talking golf, former Masters and US Open champion Angel Cabrera has officially been brought back into the PGA Tour and PGA's Champions Tour after serving prison time for gender violence. According to Golf Digest, Cabrera was notified in a letter by the tour's senior vice president Andy Livingston that his suspension from the tours had been lifted. Cabrera had been suspended by the tour after he was convicted of assaulting, threatening and harassing his former partner, Cecilia Torres Mana. He was then arrested in Rio de Janeiro after Interpol sent out a red notice to local authorities that he left Argentina without authorization. Cabrera was arrested in Brazil in January of 2021 and extradited to Argentina in June of 2021. And that's how we call it a wrap on the Sports News Update. I am Anthony Momodu.
And that's it on News Cycle, and came to you live from Nigeria's capital, Abuja, on Star Times channel 276. Kindly follow us across all social media platforms using at Global TV NG and other handles now showing on your screen. I am Jumai Manson. Thank you for watching. See you again.